In December of 2006, The Economist published an article called Economics Discovers Its Feelings, and in that article shared an imperative that speaks to where, as human beings, we're happily heading. They say experiences over commodities, pastimes over knickknacks, doing over having. Think about what this means. Action and not artifact. Experiences happen to us, and the effect of experience is memory. Creating experience can connect us with increased potential for happiness and life value, while increasing relevance and revenue to brands that work toward adding happiness to people's lives. Experience is personal. It's easy to define, but it's difficult to understand in its meaning. So many people have very different meanings for what experience is. But there's a common denominator here. Having practical contact or being affected to the point that an impression is made means interactions. And every time we interact with life, we have an experience. There are functional experiences, which we have just to get through the day. The way a website works or a smartphone works can improve my life, but how a thing works is really part of a thing. Functional experiences happen outside of us. Those experiences which stand on their own are ones that are most apt to fill the need for interpersonal connectedness and acceptance. Heading to a football game with friends, getting ready to go on holiday. While part of the experience is functional, for example, driving in the car, getting lost, and hoping my smartphone app can work quickly to get me unlost, the intent of these experiences is to bring people together, and the result of those experiences should yield happy memories. Our lives could be described as a sequence of choices, many intersections on the life path, and for every right turn you make, which would be the winning decision, it comes at the cost of making the left turn. Something wins and something loses, otherwise there'd be no balance. This is the consequence of choice. In her essay, The White Album, Joan Didion writes, "We tell ourselves stories in order to live. We interpret what we see and select the most workable of the multiple choices. The most workable selection often poses a conflict in people between the immediate and delayed consequences of making a choice. We can experience the consequence of choice at the moment the choice is made, like this morning when I paid $5 in cash for a Starbucks beverage that I enjoyed immediately, or we can delay the consequences of a choice, like getting it now but paying for it later. This consideration of future consequence is shaping the way we choose in a global way. We have ignored future consequence for so long, either because we did not have an understanding of the future impact, or because the immediate gratification was so overwhelmingly good that we just didn't look at future consequence. Now, it seems to be well understood today that making more things only to throw them away for new things costs us as consumers financially, and worse, it costs us future generations in environmental ways we can't yet know. Now, it's because we have this beautiful gift inside of each of us to interpret what we see and select the most workable of the multiple choices that we can see the negative future consequence if we do not change our mindset and either select from, or what I think is more beautiful, add to the multiple choices we already have. Perception is the key. We can only select a workable choice if we perceive other choices are not workable. And the same holds true for many things. I mean, name it, beauty. So says the saying, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, what about value? Take your pick. Sociological values, religious values, economic values. Let's face it, all value is perceived value. It's subjective and based on how decision makers describe objects to themselves. I'll skip the next part in which I go into an existential lecture on whether or not this presentation exists and jump to a more sobering reality. Our world is under tremendous environmental and economic pressures, satisfying the demands of growing populations, declining natural resources, and industrializing nations is exceeding our ability to sustain production or even sustainably sustain production. So given this reality, our future world is one where we have to decrease production, make things more expensive, which pretty much means everybody gets poor. And if you are thinking emergency, you're not having an alarmist reaction. But here's the trick. Let's challenge our perception, right? To instead of seeing emergency, let's see emergence. Open yourself to the notion that since all value is perceived value, intangible value can be just as compelling as tangible value. See a more workable of the multiple choices in which production of tangible goods decreases, output of intangible goods increases in the form of experiences, and there is no change, perhaps even a positive change, in our quality of life. We're no longer living in a material world. So consider this. In an industrial economy, in which things are made, people have a materialist things mindset and believe real value requires real things made by real people with real materials. To improve income is the same as improving the quality of life. But in an information-driven world that is making it possible for humans to come together and realize the power of creative and cognitive surplus, we can embrace a post-materialist mindset. We realize that we can improve our quality of life without producing more actual wealth. And actual is the key here. Change yourself, and the world around you changes. And the world is changing every second of every day. But is this change at an aggregate level adding to our happiness? Our world is filled with wonders. Every day, some kind of new technology or discover contributes to a growing abundance of wonders. Wonders are marvel things, objects that are out there, and all of these wonders are certainly filled with surprise and delight. But again, is it lasting? Is it adding to lasting happiness and lasting connections? Wonder, however, is a feeling. With all the wonders we see around us, and while they're all dazzling, if they do not yield a lasting feeling, then it is clear that we lack a feeling of wonder about them. How many times have you been alone and saw something, or experienced something so amazing you said, "I wish you had been there with me"? We must find a way to keep the happiness happening. I love this next equation. And I love it more when my experiences are far exceeded by the experience of living it. The UN conducted its second global happiness in 2013. Only in the last few years have we seen countries begin to form public policy based on happiness indices. Great Britain is one. There's a few others in Europe. Perhaps surprising is that in 2013, the US ranked number 17 on the Global Happiness Index, just below Mexico. But the US has so much more wealth, right? So it should be happier. Well, there's surprising research out there that instead of income being directly proportionate to happiness from the very low to the very high, happiness hits a maximum at about US $70,000 per year and then stays flat in spite of income continuing to rise. Happy Money, The Science of Smarter Spending, just published this month by Professors Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Norton, talk about money buying happiness and offer this a little bit of advice. Shifting money from buying stuff to buying experiences and from spending on yourself to spending on others can have a dramatic impact on happiness. Research shows that experiences provide more happiness than material goods, in part because experiences are more likely to make us feel connected to others. Rich experiences are those that connect and unite us and provide an ample opportunity to share, to regain a sense of wonder by connecting wonders to those with which we share them. Experiences make memories, and everybody on this planet wants happy memories. So when it comes to experiences and creating experiences, we are limited only by our imaginations. So I think we should challenge everybody's imagination out there to go one step further, because with the maximum value of infinity, everyone's imagination can always go one step further. This next section uses the brilliantly described experience realms from Joe Pine and James Gilmore's book, The Experience Economy. I'll speak more on this book a little later in the appendix. Well, can anyone tell that I like my iPhone 5? This pretty flower represents 2 axes of engagement and 4 primary colors of experience. Now, critical here, there's a difference in the experience-focused pursuits of marketing, like experiential marketing and customer experience management and the growing capabilities of rich media. The experience we're talking about here requires new thinking in 4 fee offerings in which operations are an experience and the experience is the marketing. Disneyland, for example, is an experience. The experience of being a guest at Disneyland is the marketing. That's where human media comes in, and human media is real and it's vastly untapped. Experiences are the way to evolving into human media. So let's start here. The primary axis, or horizontal axis, describes the level of participation that a customer has with an experience. As the name suggests, active participation means people directly affect the experience, whereas passive participation, people do not directly affect the event. Now keep in mind, passive does not imply people are excluded from the experience. It's just the level of direct involvement. The second axis here describes the environmental relationship or connection people have to the experience. That is to say, are they absorbing information or immersed within an interactive system? Watching TV could be considered absorbing, whereas online or video games would be considered immersive. Either the information is going into you, or you are going into the experience. There are 4 primary colors of experience. We see this kind of bloom here flow around those the horizontal and vertical axis. Rarely is an experience within a single realm. So after we walk through each, we can look at how a blending of these primary experiences can lead to an infinite array of possibilities to engage people in a way that promises every experience will be unique. Starting with entertainment, you can see we're shifted towards the passive participation, as in I bought a ticket to see a play, not to be in one, and also shifted towards an absorbing relationship, because I watch the actors on the stage, and that is a performance that goes into me. With education, we stay in an absorbing state, but we take on a more active role instead of leaning back and watching. We're active and doing. And what we want to see here, there's an opportunity to look at what interactions are going to promote the exploration of knowledge or skills, and where in the blends of experience can we really optimize for that. Escapist moves us out of the absorbing state and into immersive state, and still very much active in the experience. And here's the fun thing about escapist experiences. I think it's my favorite of the primary realms. You can be in an online chat room playing a networked Xbox game with your friends in India. You could be dressed as a Klingon at a Star Trek convention. Each of these counts as an escapist experience. Aesthetic experiences are passive and immersive. This means you have been transported into an environment, but all you have to do is sit back and just be. And this can range from a meditation garden, a national park, to an aesthetically simulated environment like Universal City Walk or rainforest cafes or anything like that. We want to see here, how can we make it more inviting? And again, how can we use this as a pivot to go into some of the experience blends? Now here are some funny, or at least functional, terms that blend the experience realms. We've all heard of edutainment, and the successes edutainment can have out there, but there are so many others out there that add benefits to the experience. Edge-aesthetic, edge-escapist, escaesthetic, intrasthetic, escatainment. Experiences are quite like theater, and like theater, holding attention, changing context, fostering appreciation, altering states, having presence, and creating catharsis are at the core of orchestrating an excellent theatrical performance. By blending the experience realms, you avail yourself to a near infinite palette of colors with which to create rich experiences. Always remember, products don't happen to you, experiences do. Just look at this. Virgin America was designed with experience in mind. It goes far beyond the function that an air carrier provides. We can see the experience blends of entertainment and aesthetic, which alters the state of passengers through a unique approach to cabin ambiance with color and lighting, and best-in-class offering of premium entertainment. They're able to create a more pleasing experience to either sit back and just be, or entertain customers customers with on-demand offerings, leaving passengers with the perception of a shorter flight and a memory of an experience they would likely choose to repeat. Apple Computer is easily one of the best experience creators around. Their store, for example, has no checkout lines, and being an experience in and of itself, the subscription to their one-to-one help desk in effect is charging admission to go into the Apple Store. Another thing Apple is doing that is really enriching that human connection between those that make and those that experience the products is pretty clear. For a brand to connect at a human level with human beings, it needs to be, take a guess, more human. If a brand does not have a clearly articulated higher purpose and point of view, then it is not yet a truly social brand, because it, like a product, exists outside of the customer. Take a look at this. Human business interactions are founded on a principle that says we like people like us. We like brands like us. And the only way to find those right people is to put your flag in the ground, have that point of view, and start attracting people that feel the same way. Now, it's not the point you're trying to make that is the most important thing about experience. It's how it feels to experience the point you're trying to make that you've got to understand if you are to optimize for the alertness and receptivity required for people to be incented to join the experience you've created. Experiences can be an adventure, and when it comes to storytelling, who better to look to than Joseph Campbell? Now, what makes an explorer willing to say yes to an adventure? Is it the monetary reward or the memory and popularity? Probably bits of each, right? But remember, the nature of experience is the promise of memories revealed over a duration. Our life narrative is a collection of the snapshots of the story we are telling ourselves. It sounds like mind games, and it kind of is, but it's not really games. It's just how we human beings process things. If we want to be sure the experiences we create for others can be woven into the life narrative of others, then we need to understand that it is these snapshots of personal interpretation which will judge the experience to be successful or not. And it all starts with choice. Choice is a creative act. When you choose, you make a decision in which there is a winner and there's a loser. These decisions occur within a system. This can be a social system or an interactive system. Either way, both are systems. And the beautiful thing about systems and decisions is that we can measure them. The numbers in a dataset represent unique, complex, and beautiful choices that were made by individual human beings. This is a voice. It has history. It has desires and preferences. And it needs to be looked at that way. It needs to be respected that way if you are to understand what data means and understand what data can do. Every person has their own narrative. Every person tells themselves their own story in order to live. So creating experiences, again, need to incorporate an amount of psychology and sociology. Only by getting the customer on the couch, in the laboratory, in the focus group, can you gain an understanding for what is happening within their cognitive process. Feeling, thinking, doing is one of the most popular models of cognitive behavioral therapy. Events and experiences are neither positive or negative. Our interpretation is what adds color to these snapshots our memory retains. Experience always happens in the present, so it's always moving, and it always speaks in verbs. Remember that as you are creating the narrative for your experience. However, memory is the scorekeeper. It uses nouns. In cognitive theory, we look at a situation, understand what's going on in the minds, and understand what's going on in the body. And in terms of behavioral change, identifying these sensations and how they manifest can help us to understand the triggers for behavior. Triggers make designing games fun, so why not approach your marketing communications problem like a game designer? That's why I like this example of the very popular children's books from the 1980s, of course me being a child of the 1980s, by enabling children to select from 2 or 3 possible outcomes across the span of the book. A single book could provide many different endings, and this is motivational design in action. By working off an individual's need to experience intrinsic enjoyment, the writer was able to restructure a traditional book with many different lenses, leaving a mass customized offering. Choice makes this all possible. So let's look at choice and design some choices. There are 6 core elements I see of solid choice architecture, solid choice design thinking. Defaults is the most important, I think. A paradox of choice is that with limitless freedom of choice, you almost need limitless time to select the most workable choice. We don't usually have that kind of time, and that said, choice can make us run away screaming if a clear path is not laid out, which brings us to mappings. I think mappings is the second most important here. So you can understand where these bottlenecks are, where these eddies of indecisions are, and place smart choices at those locations so the motivated people can keep moving forward. But above all, when you look at choice, design smart and interesting choices. We live in a world of highly undifferentiated goods and services, which can be confusing, right? If not totally boring. Keep it interesting and create an experience that is fun to interact with. So, what then does an experience want to be when it grows up? Well, if your brand is one that makes people healthy, wealthy, or wise, then you need to set your sights on creating experiences intended to transform people. There are many ideas discussed today about getting paid for things that work, good ideas, good experiences, and charging less or charging nothing for the ones that don't work. It makes perfect sense in theory, and if we are, as social brands, indeed in it for the long haul, for the relationship and the opportunity to grow together, then why are we messing with granular transactions a la carte? We should be celebrating the value that we bring to each other. And I think we're arriving at a state of consciousness where this type of talk is not just visionary or wishful thinking. If you can transform a person's life, there's a beautiful thing that happens because a transformed person sees life from another point of view. Companies that want to be paid more for these experiences that yield transformations demonstrate profoundly the investment they have in making an individual's continued life experience better. They become your human media. So this future world that we live in, it's endowed with tremendous potential for changes in the way we relate to each other as global human beings, changes in the way we experience life, an opportunity to truly add real, meaningful life value to our experience. For further reading, again, here is that wonderful book called The Experience Economy, and you can see over on the right, Tom Kelly at IDEO has a very favorable quote on what Joseph Pine and James Gilmore have laid out here. The analogy that work is theater and every business is a stage is filled with great ideas, and they are ideas that can apply to brands and businesses from the very, very small to the very, very large. Also, there's a number of references here that were used. Thanks for spending the time watching this presentation. I'm Chris Wren. If you ever want to discuss really any subject, but my two favorite subjects, choice and experience, you can find me on the web at chriswren.com. Thanks so much.